Georgia Congressman Rich McCormick. Great to have you here. He's a member of the House Armed Services Committee and the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Congressman, let's start here. We just heard from James Rosen, the latest here on this investigation. The alleged perpetrator with ties to the CIA was allowed into the U.S. in 2021 after minimal vetting. I want to get your thoughts on this because President Trump is not happy about this. Now he wants to do a deep dive and vet all of those people that have come in. Your take?
I think that's a wise thing to do. This is very personal to me. I served in Afghanistan in 2016 as the head of emergency medicine there. As you guys know, I was a Marine for 16 years before that. I served with foreign forces an awful lot in my career. The one thing I hope we don't do is do a knee-jerk reaction and assume everybody's bad. There's patriots out there that would literally give their lives for this country and for Afghanistan. They paid in tens of thousands of lives. Even 1 million people died during the Afghani war in Afghanistan that believe in freedom just like you and I. And I hate that this person is a very evil person who deserves the death penalty, deserves damnation, really, in my opinion. I hope that he is a singular problem, but I don't want to generalize. Like, you've seen it in the Catholic Church or in Boy Scout Masters where you have a couple bad apples. Does not define the rest of the people that come here. Yeah. I'm not saying that the vetting process shouldn't be reviewed, that we shouldn't look at those people that came in, but I don't want to make an assumption that all the people that came here are like this evil individual, because quite frankly, I've had some people that have really made huge sacrifices for our nation and for their nation that should not be assumed to be evil.
Right. And that's the beautiful thing about America, that people want to come here because they want a better life and they want to serve America. That is a very true statement that you made. But where the problem really comes in now is that President Trump is going to be re-looking at all of these people who have come in. We know that he's accused the Biden administration of not being as meticulous enough or organized enough with their record keeping. So now you have all of those records, which may be difficult to come by in the vetting process that we do know whether or not it happened. So what do those records look like? Plus now these new records of President Trump re-looking over every single person that came in through the country. I mean, that's frustrating in itself because you're right. There are some people who should be here. And unfortunately, now things are going to get even more muddled and even more messy. So how do we make it so the right people can stay and the wrong people need to leave?
And you look at the 1 million people that came into this country that were never vetted, that came across the southern border, we never captured, that we know came across the border. We have no idea what their intentions were. We know they're drug dealers, rapists, murderers, people who came from Venezuelan jails who were released on purpose to come here. That's the problem when you let in a 10 million population, some of them vetted, but not with any sort of intention to keep them out or to actually keep the bad actors away from us. This is what the Biden administration has resulted in, and shame on them for playing politics with our good nation.
Right. And the Biden administration was pressed about this. I want to go back to November of 2021. You got Senator Lindsey Graham questioning then Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas about this vetting process of these Afghan nationals following the botched withdrawal here from Afghanistan. Let's play that. Watch.
Are you telling this committee under oath that 99% of the people who got on these planes in Afghanistan were vetted by our government before they got on that plane?
I want to be very clear because precision...
Because you're not.
No. Senator, if I may, you are asking me about planes from transit countries, the third countries...
I'm talking about people who got on the plane in Kabul airport.
No, I can't speak to that.
All right, so that was the moment there, Congressman. Do you think that they were dodging, deflecting? Did they do enough of a vetting process at that time? Now that we know that some people came in and we don't know a lot about them.
Well, we know that some people that are vetted are going to get into our country that are bad apples. But yes, they absolutely botched the Afghan withdrawal. They didn't know who got on that plane. They still don't know who came into this country, both from there and other places in the world. The Afghan withdrawal was probably one of the most depressing days of my life, quite frankly. To see all the sacrifice that we made, the months and years we spent away from our families, the brain injuries, the lost limbs, the lost friends, just to see what they did in that horrible withdrawal where we basically handed over to the Taliban, the same nation we fought for 20 years to preserve, $1 trillion investment, over 2,400 lives. Just the worst kind of feeling you can have as somebody who's sacrificed in that nation, who's seen friends die in that nation. What a horrible result from the Biden administration. One of the worst, well, actually probably the worst withdrawal we've ever had from any war in the history of the United States.
It's so terrible to go back and rewatch that footage over and over again. It was traumatizing when it first happened, but seeing it again, it's so horrifying. I want to pivot a little bit and get your thoughts about your colleague, Marjorie Taylor Greene. We know that she's resigning, that she recently made that announcement, but she did go on X and criticized, specifically someone on the internet who criticized her for stepping down, and then went on to attack conservative men, Republican men. What did you make of those words that she shot at this person on the internet, and then also you, right? You're a Republican man.
Well, the generalities I never appreciate. I don't like playing gender politics, is what we criticize the Democrats from doing. I don't think of Marjorie as a victim. I think it's strange that somebody who's been on the attack most of her career is all of a sudden the victim. I've never been critical of her publicly, and I'm going to try to stay away from that because I don't think that helps. That doesn't help grow the party. One of the things I think that we do a really bad job of it at times is being hypercritical of people who disagree with us. It's okay to disagree. We're not a cult. Not everybody has to think exactly the same way. As a matter of fact, the way we grow our church, the way we grow our party is not to invite somebody to the party and then call them an idiot. And you're never going to convert somebody by punching them in the face. If we want to grow this party, we have to do it in a way that makes sense to people. That's what I loved about Charlie Kirk. He came from a common sense, historical perspective, somebody who wasn't out there to vilify people, but actually to invite them to a thought process that most people realize that they are conservatives in nature because they believe in freedom. They believe in the ability for self-determination, not a government that replaces God and community and families. That's where I think we get off track, and I think that she became very hypercritical of people in her party, and she didn't like having the same thing pointed back at her.
Yeah, maybe all the attacks that she has, been getting throughout her years in office finally got to her.
Yeah. Congressman, thank you so much. Rich McCormick, great to have you on here. I appreciate it.
Have a blessed day. Semper Fi.
You too. Thank you.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.